Elon Musk's vision, the man who dreams in code. Elon Musk was born on June 28, 1971, in Pretoria, South Africa. A boy who would one day reimagine not just one industry, but many. He was the eldest of three children, with a younger brother, Kimball, who would later become an entrepreneur in his own right, and a younger sister, Tosca, who would grow up to tell stories through film. From the very beginning, Elon's life was shaped by a strange combination of brilliance and hardship. His mother, Mae Musk, was a Canadian-born model and dietitian who worked tirelessly to support her family. His father, Errol, was a talented engineer, a man with a sharp technical mind, but also a stern and often harsh personality. Their marriage ended in divorce, and Elon spent much of his childhood under his father's roof, an experience he would later describe as emotionally painful, a shadow he carried for years. As a child, Elon was not popular, not strong, and not particularly social. He was shy, awkward, and deeply introverted. At school, he was bullied relentlessly. One assault was so brutal that he was beaten unconscious and left in the hospital. Yet instead of collapsing under the weight of cruelty, Elon found an escape in knowledge. He buried himself in books, in the infinite worlds of science fiction, fantasy, and encyclopedias. He read voraciously, sometimes entire encyclopedias, cover to cover, filling his young mind with facts, theories, and possibilities. While other children played games outside, Elon played games of the mind, imagining rockets, spaceships, and futures that seemed far beyond the reach of his small South African town. At the age of 12, Elon took a step that revealed who he truly was. Sitting in front of an early computer, he taught himself programming, typing out line after line of code until he had created a simple space-themed video game called Blaster. To anyone else, it was primitive, little more than a few pixels and explosions. But to Elon, it was proof. He had conjured an entire universe out of thought and code. When he sold the game for around $500, he learned something profound. Imagination, when combined with skill, could be transformed into value. That small success planted a seed that would define his future. The belief that bold ideas could be forced into a reality if you worked hard enough to build them. Listening tip: as you hear this story, remember that you are also training your English ear. By following the flow of sentences, your listening power sharpens, your pronunciation awareness grows, and your ability to think in English begins to expand naturally, just like Elon expanded his imagination as a boy. South Africa in the 1980s was not an easy place for a dreamer. The country was divided by apartheid, its politics heavy with conflict and division. Elon disliked the system and dreaded the prospect of mandatory military service, which would have forced him into a future he wanted no part of. He longed for escape, not only from the politics of his homeland, but from the limits it seemed to place on his dreams. For Elon, the United States represented something larger, the center of invention, the place where ideas became industries and dreams could scale into reality. At 17, determined to break free, Elon left South Africa with little more than ambition. Using his mother's Canadian citizenship as a stepping stone, he moved to Canada. 2 years later, he transferred to the University of Pennsylvania in the United States, finally reaching the country he had imagined since childhood. At Penn, Elon studied both physics and economics. It was a combination that revealed the dual forces pulling at his mind. Physics gave him the ability to break down the universe into first principles, the most basic truths that could be used to solve any problem. Economics gave him the insight to scale solutions into industries, into businesses that could change markets and impact millions. Together, they gave him a way to think about the world that was both scientific and practical. But Elon was not just a student. He was an entrepreneur in the making. Renting a large house with a roommate, he turned it into an unofficial nightclub, charging students at the door to cover rent. It was a glimpse of his willingness to test ideas, to take risks, to think differently. He also began writing essays on sustainable energy, predicting that the future of humanity would depend on solar power, electric vehicles, and renewable resources. These essays were not just academic musings. They were early blueprints of the world he would later build. After graduation, Elon briefly enrolled in a PhD program in applied physics at Stanford University. But the internet was exploding with opportunity, and he lasted just 2 days before dropping out. While others debated theories in classrooms, Elon wanted to create realities in the marketplace. He believed he could change the world faster outside academia. With his brother Kimball, he launched his first startup, Zip2. It was an online business directory with maps, essentially a digital version of the Yellow Pages. The brothers worked relentlessly, coding late into the night, sleeping in the office, and showering at the YMCA. Investors were skeptical, but persistence paid off. In 1999, Compaq bought Zip2 for $307 million. Elon's share was $22 million. He was just 28 years old. Most people would have stopped there. Elon was just beginning. He poured his fortune into a new company called X.com, an online bank that aimed to revolutionize money. Life there was difficult. He took odd jobs, cleaning boilers, working on farms, doing whatever he could to survive. But he was free, and freedom was worth the hardship. X.com merged with a rival startup, Confinity, and together they became PayPal. The journey was anything but smooth. The company battled fraud, regulatory challenges, and endless infighting. Elon himself was ousted as CEO during a business trip, but PayPal survived and thrived. It simplified online payments and became a global fintech pioneer. In 2002, eBay acquired PayPal for $1.5 billion. Elon's share was $180 million. With that wealth, Elon could have retired into luxury. But he did the opposite. He invested nearly everything into 3 new ventures that most people thought were insane: rockets, electric cars, and renewable energy. Friends told him he was committing financial suicide. Investors thought he was delusional. But Elon believed he was building what humanity needed to survive. In 2002, he founded SpaceX. His goal was audacious: make humanity a multiplanetary species. In 2004, he invested in Tesla Motors, a struggling electric car startup. Later, he helped launch Solar City, which focused on solar energy. These 3 bets nearly destroyed him. By 2008, all were on the verge of collapse. Here's another listening tip. By hearing this narration in English, you are not just learning about Elon Musk. You are absorbing sentence structures, vocabulary, and rhythms of speech. This practice helps you sound more natural and fluent when you speak. SpaceX's early years were some of the hardest in Elon Musk's life. He had poured more than $100 million of his PayPal fortune into the company, and the results were heartbreaking. The first launch of the Falcon 1 rocket in 2006 ended in flames, crashing back into the ocean just seconds after takeoff. The second launch in 2007 failed again. The third launch in 2008, the one Elon had hoped would prove everything, exploded after just 2 minutes in the air. Each rocket cost millions of dollars, and with every failure, employees lost faith. Engineers whispered that the dream was dead. Elon was down to his last chance. SpaceX had enough money and parts for one more rocket. If it failed, the company would be bankrupt, and Elon's vision of private space exploration would end before it began. The pressure was unimaginable. In September 2008, the Falcon 1 launched for the 4th time. This time, it worked. The rocket reached orbit. The team erupted into cheers, some even weeping with joy. Elon himself, usually composed, broke down in tears. That single success kept the company alive. Weeks later, NASA awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to deliver cargo to the International Space Station. It was the lifeline Elon needed. At the time, digital payments seemed absurd. People barely trusted the internet, let alone with their money. But Elon saw the future. He envisioned a world where money could move instantly and globally. Elon believed the mission was critical for humanity's survival, but building cars is brutally expensive. The first Tesla, the Roadster, faced endless problems: production delays, battery failures, and skyrocketing costs. Critics mocked Tesla as a Silicon Valley toy company. Traditional automakers laughed at the idea of electric cars. By 2008, Tesla was weeks away from bankruptcy. Elon had already invested much of his PayPal fortune into the company, but it wasn't enough. He had to make a choice: save himself or save his companies. He chose both. Splitting his last remaining cash between SpaceX and Tesla, he borrowed money from friends just to pay his rent. This was a man worth millions on paper but broke in reality. And then came another miracle. The U.S. Department of Energy provided Tesla with a $465 million loan. It gave the company a second chance. For Elon, it was another narrow escape from disaster. The year 2008 nearly broke him. His marriage was falling apart. His companies were dying. The global financial crisis meant investors were fleeing. He described it later as the worst year of his life. Yet it was also the year that shaped him most. He had stared into the abyss, refused to blink, and pulled his companies back from the edge of death. Tesla slowly began to recover. The Roadster, while imperfect, proved that electric cars could be fast, stylish, and desirable. Then came the real breakthrough. The Model S, released in 2012, it stunned the automotive world. With long-range, incredible performance and cutting-edge technology, it won near-perfect scores from critics. Consumer Reports famously declared it the best car they had ever tested. Suddenly, Tesla was no longer a joke. It was a revolution. But the revolution wasn't easy. Elon set his sights on the Model 3, a more affordable electric car for the masses. Building it nearly destroyed the company again. But his troubles were not over. At the very same time, Tesla was collapsing. Founded in 2003 by a group of engineers and later joined by Elon, Tesla aimed to build high-performance electric cars that could rival gas-powered vehicles. Elon refused to give up. He slept on the factory floor, working alongside engineers, determined to show the world Tesla could survive. Against all odds, Tesla delivered. The Model 3 became one of the best-selling cars in the world. Tesla's stock price soared. By 2021, the company was worth more than $1 trillion, more valuable than Toyota, Volkswagen, and Ford combined. What once seemed impossible had become inevitable. The future of cars was electric. Listening tip: as you hear these longer English sentences, your brain is practicing how native speakers use flow, pauses, and emphasis. Listening this way makes it easier for you to understand conversations in real life and respond with confidence. Meanwhile, SpaceX was scaling new heights. The Falcon 9 rocket became the workhorse of the space industry, launching satellites, supplies, and eventually astronauts into orbit. The most revolutionary step was reusability. Instead of letting rockets crash into the ocean, SpaceX made them land upright on floating drone ships. It looked like science fiction. The first attempts failed, rockets toppling and exploding. But then one landed, then another, and another. Costs dropped dramatically, and suddenly, space was open again. Elon's vision expanded further with Starlink, a constellation of thousands of satellites providing internet access to even the most remote corners of the planet. For some, Starlink became a lifeline, powering communication in war zones, disaster areas, and rural communities. It was more than a business. It was a demonstration of how space could improve life on Earth. And yet, even rockets and cars weren't enough for Elon Musk. His restless mind leapt into new frontiers. In 2016, he co-founded Neuralink, a company with a mission that sounded like pure science fiction, merging the human brain with computers. Tiny electrodes implanted in the brain could one day cure paralysis, restore sight, or treat neurological diseases. Elon's long-term vision was even more audacious, creating a direct link between humans and artificial intelligence. Tesla entered what Elon called production hell. Robots malfunctioned, assembly lines stalled, and customers grew impatient. At one point, Tesla was losing hundreds of millions of dollars per quarter. Short sellers on Wall Street bet billions that the company would collapse. That same year, he launched the Boring Company, born out of frustration while sitting in Los Angeles traffic. The idea was to dig tunnels under cities, creating high-speed transport systems to bypass congestion. While many dismissed it as another Musk fantasy, the company built a functioning tunnel, under the Las Vegas Convention Center, with plans for more. Elon's companies were shaping the future, but they also stirred controversy. In 2022, he shocked the world by buying Twitter for $44 billion. He called it a fight for free speech. He fired thousands of employees, changed rules overnight, and renamed the platform X. The move polarized the world. Critics said he was destroying Twitter. Supporters said he was reinventing it. Whatever the truth, it showed once again that Elon Musk never played small. His public persona only added fuel to the fire. He tweeted constantly, jokes, memes, and bold statements that moved global markets. A single tweet could send Bitcoin soaring or crash Tesla stock by billions. Investors begged him to stop. Fans begged him to keep going. Regulators shook their heads, but Elon didn't care. He was authentic, raw, and unfiltered. And remember, by listening to this narration in English, you're also absorbing tone, rhythm, and vocabulary. The more you listen, the more natural English conversation will feel, helping you speak with clarity and confidence. At the center of all his ventures remained a single, audacious dream: Mars. Elon Musk believed Earth was fragile. A single asteroid, a nuclear war, or climate disaster could end humanity. Colonizing Mars, he argued, was not fantasy. It was insurance for our species. With Starship, the largest rocket ever built, he envisioned fleets of ships carrying settlers, cargo, and technology to the Red Planet. He described domed cities powered by solar panels, greenhouses growing food, and eventually a self-sustaining civilization. Critics laughed. Supporters called it destiny. For Elon, it was simply necessary. Looking forward, Elon's roadmap is breathtaking. SpaceX aims to send humans to Mars. Tesla aims to build fleets of autonomous robotaxis and humanoid robots. Neuralink aims to transform medicine and perhaps even human intelligence. The Boring Company dreams of underground highways, and X is evolving into a global everything app. Critics called it dangerous. Elon called it essential for humanity's survival in a world where AI was advancing faster than we were. If even half of these succeed, the 2030s will be unrecognizable compared to today. Rockets launching daily, electric cars dominating the roads, renewable grids powering entire nations, robots working alongside humans, and perhaps humanity taking its first steps onto another planet. How will history remember Elon Musk? Some see him as a modern Thomas Edison or Steve Jobs, a visionary who reshaped industries. Others see him as reckless, ego-driven, and dangerous. The truth may be both. But one thing is undeniable. He has changed the conversation about what humanity can do. His greatest legacy may not be the rockets, cars, or tunnels, but the mindset he embodies. Dream beyond limits. Work harder than anyone thinks possible. Take risks when the world says no. He shows that failure is not final and ridicule is not permanent. From a bullied boy coding games in South Africa, to a man who risked everything on rockets and cars, to a visionary who dreams of Mars. Elon Musk is the man who dreams in code. And just as Elon pushed boundaries, you too are pushing boundaries by listening in English. With each sentence, you're improving your listening, your pronunciation, and your ability to think in English like a native speaker. He is not just building companies, he is building the scaffolding of tomorrow. And the question he leaves us with is simple. If one man can dream this big, what about you?